All right, listen up, please. We are going to be doing proportions and percentages all week, so the practice isn't going to change much, but the numbers in the practice are going to change. So this is going to be more proportion, proportions, and percentage. Faith, I need you to move left a little bit. Again, the first three problems in today's assignment are going to be for you to solve a proportion where you crisscross multiply. So let's cover something like x plus 2 over 8 is equal to 12 over 6. All right, some of you had questions on this problem yesterday. When you see a proportion, the first step is to crisscross multiply. But in this case, you have a binomial in the numerator. So when you crisscross multiply, you've got 6 times x plus 2 is equal to 8 times 12. And 8 times 12 is 96. Okay? So the next step here is the distributive property. So you're going to take 6 times x, and you're going to take 6 times positive 2. So you get 6x plus 12 is equal to 96. And now you can solve by inverse operations. So you can subtract 12 from each side. And the 12s will cancel, and your 6x is going to be equal to 84. And you can divide each side by 6. The 6's cancel, and x is equal to 14. Then, for most of your papers that I looked at yesterday, the van traveling, your proportions, you did a pretty good job on that. The second word problem that was on yesterday's assignment, okay, it was regarding the chaperones. And it said that a school requires how many required? It was 2 chaperones for every 25. Requires 2 chaperones for every 25 students. How many chaperones for 80 students? Now, when you set up this proportion, you can set up a proportion of chaperones to students. So you would set up your proportion as 2 chaperones for every 25 students has to be equal to x chaperones for 80 students. There's your proportion, and you know how to solve these. So you're going to crisscross multiply. So 25 times x is 25x. And 2 times 80 is 160. You then divide both sides by 25. And x will be equal to 160 divided by 25. And that's 6.4. But you have to read the question, guys, okay? Because it says how many chaperones are needed for 80 students. You can't have 0.4 of a chaperone. It's a little bit less than half of a person. Okay? So how many chaperones would you need for this field trip?
6.
You need 6.4. So you need 6 and a little bit more. Yeah, you have to have 7 chaperones. You would need 7 chaperones. Because on a multiple choice quiz, your options are going to be 6, 7, probably 6.5 and 7.5. But you can't have half of a chaperone. Yes?
I thought we always round down.
No.
So, okay.
No. Think about it.
For the chaperones, yeah, I get it.
If you have to have 6.4 of them,
You might as well.
you have to have 7 full people because you can't have 0.4 of a chaperone. All right? Then you're going to have some is over of equals percent over 100 problems. And you're going to be asked for, here's your question. It's going to look like this. 180%. Of what number? Is 600. That's the style question you're going to get asked today. So remember, the format that you're going to use is over of is equal to percent over 100. And the 100 always goes in the bottom right. So when you're given a problem like this, you are going to draw a blank template. And you're going to put 100 in the bottom right-hand corner. Now the is of the question is going to go in the upper left of the proportion. 180% of what number is 600? 600 is your is. So it's 600 over the of. The question says of what number? So that's going to be your variable. 180%, 180 would go in this numerator on the right. So that is your setup. So when you crisscross multiply, 180x is equal to 600 times 100. That's 60,000. And you can divide both sides by 180. The 180s will cancel. And x will be equal to. Very good. 333.3. Okay, one of the 4 word problems on your practice for today is going to say that, here's the question. It'll say something like, you deposited. Do you guys know what deposited means? Deposit id. If you deposit money in the bank, do you know what that means? You put money in. So you deposited $400 in a savings account. You deposited $400 that earns 3.5% per year. You want to keep the money in there for 6 years. How much interest will you earn? All right? So here's the question. How much interest will you earn after 6 years? So think about this. You're putting $400 in the bank. It's going to get you 3.5% per year. All right? So the first thing that you have to do is find out what is, all right, this will be step one. First thing to do is find out what is 3.5%. First thing you have to do in this problem is find out what is 3.5% of 400. Okay? Are you guys with me on that? Because you're going to get 3.5% per year. So if you find out what 3.5% of the 400 is, how will you know how much you'll have after 6 years? You just multiply it by 6. All right? So first step, what is 3.5% of 400? So you set up your is over of equals percent over 100. Your is what you're trying to find. So x over your of, which is 400, equals 3.5 over 100. Well, now you can crisscross multiply. So you're going to get 100x equals 3.5 times 400. That's 1,400. If you divide both sides by 100, the hundreds cancel, and x will be equal to 1,400 divided by 100 is 14. So that means that you're making $14 per year on your 400 that you put in the bank. So how much interest will you earn after 6 years? You're just going to take your $14 per year and you're going to multiply it by 6, and that will equal $84. So you'll make $84 in interest on the 400 that you put in the bank. 3.5%, it's guaranteed. It's not a very high rate, but you can invest it in the stock market and make more money. But if you invest it in the stock market and the value of your stock drops, you could also lose money. So when you're considering investments and what to do with your money, normally the bank is the worst place to put it, but it's usually also the safest place to put it.
How do you know when stock goes up and down?
You know when stock goes up and down by just watching the stock market. You get an app, you put it on your phone, you type in the symbol for the business, and then you just check the app. And by the minute, it's updated.
Can't you get rich on stock?
If you buy stock at a low price and the stock goes up, yes. If you buy stock at a price and the stock goes down, you're going to lose all your money.
Yeah, like $6 a share goes down. You lose all.
Well, if you buy it for $100 a share and then all of a sudden it drops to $50 a share, you just lost half your money.
Yeah.
So you want to do a lot of research before you buy stock. You want to make sure that you're buying stock in a company that even through bad economic times will still continue to make money.
Yeah.
What if you buy it if it's already high?
All right, the other financial word problem that you'll have on your assignment today, the question will look something like, you deposited $1,700 in a savings account. Okay, so let's say, let me change the numbers a little bit. You deposited, which means put in. Let's say you deposited $1,500 at an interest rate at 3% per year. How many years do you need to keep the money in the account to earn $400? Okay, so how many years until you earn $400 in interest? So you put $1,500 in, and they're going to give you 3% per year. Okay? So again, the first thing you have to do is you have to find out, step number one is to find out what is 3% of $1,500. When you find that out, that's telling you how much interest they're giving you every year. What will you do with that number to find out how many years it's going to take to earn $400? Anybody? Well, let's find the 3% of the 1,500 first. So is over of equals percent over 100. So the is x. The of is 1,500. The percent is 3. And we always put 100 in the bottom right. So when you crisscross multiply, 100x equals 4,500. If you divide both sides by 100, then x equals 45. Okay? That means that every year they're going to give you $45 in interest. Okay? So if every year they're going to give you $45 in interest, how do you find out how many years it will take to earn 400? Very good. You divide. So step 2 is to take the $400 and divide it by 45 that you're going to get per year. And 400 divided by 45, 8.9 years. 8.9 years. Yes.
It's a lot.
It's a long time to make $400 in interest.
Yeah. It's not worth it.
But what else are you going to do with that money? You got $1,500. What else are you going to do with it? What other options do you have?
You can invest it in other stock, try and make more money.
You can try to invest it in some stock, buy some stocks. Yep, you can do that. You can maybe get on somewhere like Craigslist and try to buy a vehicle that you think is a really good deal for $1,500. And then maybe clean it up, wax it, shine the tires up, change the oil, try to sell it for $2,000. All right?
What if you can't sell it for 3? Or start at 3 and let them talk you down some where they think they're getting you down.
So then you make $500. And now you got $2,000. And you do the same thing. You buy another one. Or you buy a trailer. Trailers on Craigslist, you can buy junky trailers and clean them up and sell them super fast. And on a $1,500 trailer, I've made $1,000 in the past. And the only thing I did to the trailer was I took a grinder, knocked a bunch of the rust off of it, spray painted it. Honestly, spray painted the whole trailer, greased all the fittings, put brake lights on there, made sure it had working brake lights and chains, and sold a $1,500. I sold a $500 trailer on Craigslist for $2,500, and all I did was paint it and put brake lights on it.
Trailers are expensive now. I found a trailer for like $12,000.
They're very expensive. Okay, and then one more problem that it looked like was confusing some of you on yesterday's assignment was the total cost of a meal. And the question was, what is the total cost of a meal after including a tip? Okay? So, what is the total cost of a $75 meal after leaving a 20% tip? That means you have to find 20% of 75 and add it to the 75. So the first thing you have to do in solving this is to find out what is 20% of 75. Your meal costs $75. You want to leave the waiter or waitress a 20% tip. So the first thing you do is find 20% of 75. So it's is over of equals percent over 100. So 100x is going to equal 75 times 20. It's 1,500. Divide both sides by 100. X is equal to 15. So $15 is the tip. Okay? So they're asking you, what is the total cost of the meal after leaving a 20% tip? So you got the meal is at 75. The tip is going to be 15. So the total cost is going to be 75 plus 15, which is $90. I don't know, because food's not cheap. All right, does anybody have any questions? This is a review from yesterday, and it's adding in a couple different type problems. All right.